So who do we have? We've got a young man, 47 years of age. Do you know, this is a worthless piece of trivia, except you can impress somebody at a cocktail party this weekend. Do you know that when Jack Kennedy beat Richard Nixon was 47 years old? And a lot of people forget that. We've got a young man who is an internationalist, grew up and lived on several continents. He is literally and figuratively a new face to America and from America to the rest of the world. When you ask young people, what's America going to look like 20 years from now? They say Barack Obama. And it doesn't mean anything. They don't consider Barack Obama to be the African-American candidate for president. They consider him to be the cool candidate for president. He's a multilateralist when it comes to foreign policy. And when he says the torch has passed to a new generation, he's Jack Kennedy in this race, because he's not a baby boomer. And frankly, I don't think he's even a Generation Xer. I talk in my book about America's first global citizens who are 18 to 29. They consider Barack Obama to be one of them. Now let's go back 2 generations. Let's go back to a Cold War America, a very simple definition of patriotism. My country, right or wrong, my country over myself. America's values are superior. How do I know? Because the other side is so terrible and because everybody wants what we have. John McCain is not an internationalist. He is a Cold War patriot. And he has the generational support to define that generation. When he talks about a simpler form of patriotism, personal sacrifice and honor and duty, he emblemizes it. That's his life. This is an outstanding character. Domestically, he's a maverick. He's mad at everybody all the time. He annoys Republicans. I've watched it. It's artistry. That's Harry Truman. Jack Kennedy versus Harry Truman. I mean, this has really been worth the price of admission to watch this. I think Harry Truman's flagging a little bit. I think Harry Truman got off the Harry Truman thing and too much onto the Bill Ayers thing. You know, it's not only that people are scared about their present. Unemployment is up, and we're back to the verges of stagflation. We have a new investor class that I write about. And if you've got a portfolio of $5,000 or $5 million and you've lost 40% of it, you're just not thinking about Bill Ayers right now. People are funny like that. I think he missed the point. But I'll just end the political portion of this by just saying to you, one of the other aspects that makes this election so exciting and so historic, we will never, ever, ever ask again about an African American running for president. We've done it. And we will never ask again about a woman running for president or vice president. We've done it. And then one of the points that I make in my book about my boomer generation, 78 million strong of us, one of the things that's going to define our second act in life, which we so sorely need, is the fact that we're going to be the first age cohort to have 1 million of us reach the age of 100. Which means that when we start to contemplate retirement, we have 30 more years of healthy living ahead of us. We're never ever going to ask about a 72-year-old running. That's a whippersnapper running for president. So what an exciting election. And so thank you very much for that piece of it. Now let me segue to the book. The reviews have been wonderful. There have been two that have been snarky. One guy called me an optimist, and that really annoys the hell out of me. Worst thing I've ever been called. I set out really to write a different book. I set out to write a book about millions upon millions of Americans giving up on the American dream. And what I learned was the opposite. Not only from the polling, but also from the behavior that I saw in conjunction with the polling. And so I define a whole new American dream. There's still 1/3 of us that believe in the traditional American dream, which is some form of material acquisition. Some form of, whether it's rags to riches or a home in the suburbs or a dream vacation or something, a thing. And it's a good thing we have 1/3, because very simply that's where innovators and developers and inventors and entrepreneurs come from. But the growing group among us are the 42% as of last month who tell us that the American dream is alive, but it has nothing to do with material acquisition. It is about personal fulfillment, about spiritual meaning in my life, about something bigger than me. Not to be confused with religiosity. We are already a religious nation. This is secular spiritualism. And how did it come about? Very quickly, there are 4 sources of this new secular spiritualism. The first, there are 27% of American working adults that work at a job that pays less than their previous job. For most of them, life has thrown lemons at them. And when I first started studying them 21 years ago, and then poignantly during the 1992 election, I started to see an anger and a bitterness and a sense that, you know, people were telling us who were making $80,000 a year 20 years ago, I go without food for 24 hours at a time because I'm not going to give, I'm working for less. I'm making 80,000. I was making 120. I'm not going to give up that house. I'm not going to give up those cars. I'm not going to give up what I have. Because if I do, I'll never get it back. And then slowly but surely, they weren't getting it back. With structural recessions, and that meant that people were forced into positions where they had to work for less, work 2 jobs, sometimes in some cases 3 jobs. But what I also saw is these people in this category experiencing kind of an Elizabeth Kubler-Ross experience. That they'd gone from anger and frustration to acceptance, acquiescence, and then finally readjustment. This is the new consumer in America. This is behind the Walmart and the Costco and the Target and the dollar store phenomenon. Americans saying, I got a shrinking dollar. What is the best that I get for it? Don't sell me fantasy. Sell me reality. Don't sell me a truck because it's got an American flag on it. I want a truck that works. Dove, don't sell me Elle Macpherson. I don't look like Elle Macpherson. Sell me what I look like and make it real because I only got this much. The second source of this new American dream, all the way over on the other end of the spectrum. 9 to 10 million Americans who've made it, who have done well materially, who have come to the point in their lives where they're tired of the chase and are saying more and more, do I really need the next iteration of the iPhone? I just got one 3 months ago and it didn't make me a better person. I don't feel better about myself. Do I need a 3,000 square foot addition to my home? I already have 7,000 and I don't get to enjoy 80% of that. There comes a point where it's wasteful.